Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're going to turn one sheet of plywood
into 3 swarm traps.
have your favorite big box store just rip down your plywood for you. I've got the plans right here, and what we see is effectively we're just going to have 5 pieces that we take home. So you can get this in your car. It's not a big deal once we have it ripped down. I added a little bit of room for margin for error on either side. What I found was the rip saw at Home Depot was off a quarter of an inch from top to bottom over that 4-foot span. So I've kind of accounted for that, and I just wanted to be able to get it home so I can rip it down on my table saw here. So we'll take a look at that.
All right, now that we've got the pieces home from the big box store, we want to go ahead and just rip them down so they're all the same size at 18 1/4. It accounts for some of that variation we were talking about. Once that's done, we'll go ahead and cut the large sides out, the yellow pieces here at 19 3/16. We should yield 6 total from the sheet of plywood. Then we'll come back and cut the small sides out. There's going to be 3 total of these, so 1 per A, B, and C, and we'll cut that off at 7 1/2. Once that's done, we're going to come back and trim it up at 17 1/2 here, you can see. So 7 1/2 by 17 1/2. Once we're done there, we're going to come back and cut our frame rails, which is this light blue piece here. We're going to cut that at 8 7/16, and that should be already at about 1 3/4. We shouldn't have to do anything just with the leftover. Then we're going to come back and cut our lid short sides at 9 1/2 by 1 1/2. So let's dig in and see what that looks like now.
Just to look at some of that variation, you can see you got maybe a quarter of an inch down here, down to really nothing down here. So all right, the final 2 cuts for the side piece, 17 1/2. We're just going to rip it here, and then come up. This is going to be one of the frame rails. That's going to be cut at 8 7/16. And then for the lid top, we'll rip this down at 1 1/2, and then we'll cut them back at 9 1/2 here. So we'll do that now. Check down in the description. I've got all of the cuts inside of there that I'm using here today.
Just so we can see measurements here, we've got our lid short sides by 9 1/2 by 1 1/2, our actual lid topper 21 1/4 by 9 1/2, our lid long rails 1 1/2 by 20 5/16, and then our frame just end caps 8 7/16 by 1 3/4. All right, now that we know what we're doing from a dimension standpoint, we're just going to go ahead and set the table saw to 9 1/2, and we're going to take that off, and that's going to give us our lid toppers. Then we're going to set it to 1 3/4 and just bring that off over here, and that'll give us our end caps for our frame rails. We'll come back and we'll set our miter saw this time to 20 1/4. My table saw is just not big enough to handle this, so 20 1/4 for these, and this will finish our lid tops for us. Then we're going to come back and we're going to take these dark purple ones here, and we're going to set that to 20 5/16, and we should have 2 pieces here. And the reason I did this is just because I figured it's easier to rip them all at 1 1/2 later instead of trying to cut the kind of long piece and get a little wobbly on you. But once that's done, we'll come back to our frame rail end caps, set the table saw to 8 7/16, and we'll just go ahead and rip that off, and we'll have 3 pieces there total. Once that's finished, we're going to come back to the table saw, just set it to 1 1/2 inches, and these are already set at 9 1/2, which is perfect. So our lid short sides are just ready to go. We're just going to rip all 3 of them down at 1 1/2 and be good to go there. When that's finished, we're going to come back with our lid long sides, and we'll just cut those off. So those pieces that we had, and we'll just cut them off into 3 lid sides per each, and we should end up with 6 total lid long sides there. And with that, let's rock and roll and see what it looks like. For E, we're going to cut the lid top off at 9.5. Then we're going to come back and cut the trap bottoms off at 18.25. After we've got that cut, we're going to come back, set the table saw to 17.5, and we're going to cut off the sides there. The next thing we're going to do is set the table saw to 7.5, and we're just going to rip off both the bottoms and sides together. They're just going to be set to 7.5 all the way. They're the same size, so not a huge deal there. The final cut that we're going to do, which I actually did not get on video, like we said before, was the 21.25. My table saw is not big enough for that, so just rip the lid top there. I use my miter saw to do that as well.
All right, now that we've got everything cut up, we need to go ahead and start to glue and staple. I just got a cheap stapler from Harbor Freight, some 1-inch crown staples, and then this says Titebond 2, but it's actually Titebond 3. It's waterproof, so I'm just using that for outdoor. Bottom, side. Helps to have staples. All right, so that's the inside of the box. It's a 40-liter, beginning of a 40-liter swarm trap. Just a deep frame that I've got here. You can see it just fits in, rides the sides as frame rails, and then we'll take just a end cap here, plug it up, and you can see that it just completes the box there. We'll get a lid to come around this, cut some vent holes, and I think probably a 1-inch entrance, maybe a 1.5. I haven't decided yet. And take from there, but this is pretty straightforward. We'll go ahead and knock these out real quick. We'll start with the end pieces because they sit flush, and then just kind of staple them into places. Making sure not to get your fingers. All right, so the last step is to build our hangers. I picked up some bowed, like 70% off 1x4s. These are actually treated, which works out even better. I'm gonna cut 3 hangers plus cleats out of one 8-foot board. These are 3/4 inch thick, the plywood being 1/2 inch thick. This is gonna give me just enough room to where it's not gonna interfere with anything on there. So what we'll do is we'll just do 3 18-inch cuts, and then I think it's 6 6-inch cuts out of one of these. And we'll just glue them up and screw them onto the backs of the boxes there. So here we go. Hey guys, so you can see right here what we've got. Just again 6 inches. I just glued these on and stapled them. I actually split the wood because I didn't use pilot holes. So if you're gonna use screws, 1-inch screws, pilot holes, you should be good to go. But you can see what this gets us here. And then what we're doing is we're just putting a hole up top here and hanging it. Should be fine. We've got a cavity here that's going to give us a spot for our ratchet strap, and you're good to go to hang these in the trees. Hey guys, a couple of updates that I didn't catch on video that I wanted to just share with you to finish it off. So I did pick up a mist tint paint at the big box store and put 3 coats of paint on there. Maybe a little excessive, but it's a good protectant. I ended up using a 1-inch hole in the hanger paired with a 3.5-inch deck screw that I just put in an angle in the tree. It worked out perfectly. The deck screws are a little more malleable, so they don't snap off. They're not real rigid like you would get with drywall screws or something like that. So perfect for that application. I also used a 1.5-inch hole saw for. I put a hole down at the bottom of the front entrance of the swarm trap there. And that, based on research, 1.5 inches was the way to go there. The final thing that I did is we got to secure that somehow because you don't want like birds and stuff getting in there. So I've seen people use nails. I ended up having some extra hardware cloth laying around, some 1/2 inch. So I just used that, just a couple of staples on the inside, and I was good to go there. As far as baiting the trap, I ended up using just some old comb that I had. So I put one frame of old comb in every single swarm box, and then I put 4 empty, just deep frames in there as well. But I did take some beeswax and I melted it down and I painted the inside a little bit just to get some basically more smell in there that will try to attract them. And then finally I took some, it's a little 1.5 milliliter vial, and I paired that up with my lemongrass oil and I just put that in there as well. Based on what I was seeing, it should be one of those I don't have to go back and check. Everybody that I've hung them up at their houses, they said they just give me a call if they see bees in there. So should be good to go. But those are my steps there. I hope you guys have enjoyed this, and please feel free to drop a note if you've got questions on anything. I built 9 of these, so I think I've got it down somewhat. But have a good one, guys. I appreciate the time.